now.
And now,
From South Africa's economic heart, this is the Sandton Times Hour with your host,
Alexander.
Wherever you might find yourself at this point, welcome to you, and this is the Sandton Times Hour. It's edition 253, week 30 of 2026. I'm your host, Alexander Leipner, and if you're listening for the very first time, why don't you give us a message, emoji, voice note, whatever you're comfortable with. Show us that you are with us for the next hour, and I'd also like to welcome you to the show. It's always good to have some new audiences join us for the Sandton Times Hour. And if you're a regular listener in South Africa or somewhere across the globe, be it online or on air, greetings to you from the skylines and vantage point of Sandton. Certainly a dynamic and interesting place where so much is on the go, even during the winter months, which seem to be never ending. But I feel like we're halfway there. A little bit of July left, and then, the whole of August. But then the moment we can smell September, it feels like the temperature changes. Can't wait. I trust you had a good Mandela Day this week. Be interested to hear what you got up to and what initiatives kept you engaged and involved. Did you do something big, something small? Let us know. Also, the 2026 FIFA World Cup drawing to a close. And I was just saying to someone the other day, I finally have a chance to get to bed early again, as some of these games were just not at a good time. I mean, especially if you're looking for a bit of relaxation at night or just want to have an early night. These FIFA World Cup games either kept you up the whole night or you were just so wound up after a game it'd take you another hour or two to fall asleep. So at least that's done now, and we can look forward to other things sporting wise. Today's show is going to be a real mixed bag of all sorts, like really all sorts, which will hopefully keep you wildly entertained and vaguely amused, or just keep you company wherever you find yourself right now. So let's have a look at the breakdown for the next hour in a bit. Kick things off with a bit of motoring in our Sandton Drive feature as we take a look at the Mazda CX-60 Takumi. More about that in a bit. Then we have a spotlight interview this week, taking a look at Discovery's recent announcement as the official health, wellness and banking sponsor to the Total Sports 2 Ocean Marathon, and what this means to those runners looking to get ahead of the pack. If you're into running, this one's for you. As always, I then catch up with our regular entertainment commentator to take a look at the Odyssey, and a little caveat, be pre-warned, Tat isn't a fan. So this is going to be a dynamic slot. And finally, it's one of South Africa's leading designer names that has teamed up with the 67 Blankets for Nelson Mandela Day movement. And I encourage you to stick around for this interview and so much more. It's another superb hour lined up for you. And I would love to hear from you and also get a chance to share some of your feedback, maybe in one of the coming shows. If you want to get in touch, you can send your questions, comments, and feedback to editor@sandtontimes.co.za. Connect on social media @Sandton Times, and the WhatsApp number 084 Sandton. That's the exclusive Sandton Times Hour WhatsApp number 084 726 3866. 084 726 3866, and then the website sandtontimes.co.za remains open to you whenever you want to visit that. And if you're not part of the podcast community, be sure to subscribe to the Sandton Times Hour on all major podcast platforms, whichever one you prefer. It's not going to cost you anything, and you can catch up on all the previous content there, including interviews and chats.
WhatsApp your voice notes to the Sandton Times Hour
on 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866.
And we're back.
The Sandton Times Hour continues.
From the unmistakable growl of a 3.3-litre inline-6 turbo diesel to a cabin packed with technology, the Mazda CX-60 Takumi is Mazda's statement release in the luxury car segment. And with 187 kilowatts of power, 550 newton meters of torque, mild hybrid efficiency, all-wheel drive, and a claimed fuel consumption of just 4.9 liters per 100 kilometers, it's a vehicle designed to challenge established premium rivals. Add features like a 12-speaker Bose sound system, a panoramic sunroof, and long list of advanced safety technologies. And it's clear this flagship car from Mazda is about far more than just getting from A to B. To find out whether the CX-60 Takumi lives up to the promise on South African roads, I'm joined by the editor of Driven Magazine, Bernard Helberg. And Bernard, it's good to have you back on the Sandton Drive on the Sandton Times Hour.
Always lovely to chat with you about cars, and today this beauty of a Mazda. is lovely. Thank you.
Well, Bernard, I think you've already given me a little bit of a hint as to how you felt about your time behind the wheel. But what was your overall impression?
First, let me just say, with that intro, do we really need to have this conversation? Because that was so comprehensive that there isn't much more to say. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, there's a lot to say because this is quite a lot of car. My opinion of Mazda is quite high. Let me just admit that. I do believe they build amazing products. Build quality is excellent. These cars are designed well. They are manufactured well. They are solid, they are reliable, and they are, for the most part, but definitely this car, really good looking. Also, from an exterior point of view, from an interior point of view as well, well appointed, luxurious, well made, materials are lovely. There's honestly not that much to criticize about this car, just off the bat. Yes, we can get into details, and we will, but about things like price and where it fits in the market and what it compares to and whether its price is reflective of value that you get and so on. But just as a general baseline, I really like this car, especially its six-cylinder engine. You don't find a 3.3-liter turbo diesel six-cylinder engine in this D-segment SUV category. It's just such a rarity that the CX-60 Takumi is a breath of fresh air, frankly.
Well, listen, it's certainly well-powered. I thoroughly enjoyed the drive as well, and I think it wasn't lacking on that front. One thing that you did point out now that I thought was quite interesting, and I was thinking about this, is that Mazda always seems to be one of those brands that you don't necessarily gravitate to or think of when you think of potentially purchasing a vehicle. I always find that it plays very much under the radar, and I don't know if it's a marketing thing or a communications thing. I mean, I was trying to remember the last time I saw a Mazda ad, and I thought back to that ad in the 90s that used to go Zumbai Agumaia, and it used to have those dinosaur fossils across the screen. And I mean,
I remember that.
Yeah. And that's the last time I remember seeing a Mazda ad.
You know what? You're absolutely right. There are some brands in South Africa, and that it's not necessarily the case in other countries, but here, that do fly under the radar, and somehow they're all over the place. And I'm sure you had the same phenomenon as I had when you drive a Mazda, or actually any brand of car. You tend to see more of them on the road. There's a psychological name for it, I know, but I can't remember what it is. But look around, you'll see many Mazdas. So people are buying Mazdas. Yes, they're not buying them at the rate that they're buying Toyotas or Fords or Volkswagens, but they are buying them. Another brand, just as a bit of an aside, that is sort of in the same space is Subaru. They have this cult following of loyal customers, but they don't shoot the lights out in terms of sales. But back to Mazda.
Well, I think you're thinking of the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, which is that the thing when you think of something or you focus your attention on something and suddenly you see more of it, even though it's probably exactly the same amount as it was before. One thing that I did find a little bit peculiar, almost annoying, was the fact that this car doesn't have a touchscreen. You have to kind of use this mouse system button and thing to try and navigate your screen. And some people were saying to me, no, it's probably safer doing it that way because you're not distracted by pushing on a screen. But I felt like you had to do more movements to try and select things on your CarPlay than if you just reached over and just pressed on the button.
So that is the one thing that also gets a thumbs down from me on this specific Mazda, because they don't have that system where you use the little scroller in all their cars. The CX-5, for example, which you can see as a predecessor, although it is also a current model, does have a touchscreen, but oddly. But anyway, the CX-60 doesn't. And it's also set quite far away from you, which is perhaps good, because then you don't have to reach that far to get to the touchscreen. But yes, I'm not mad about the scroller. I'm somebody who uses Waze quite a lot through Apple CarPlay. Specifically there, if you want to indicate, that there's some kind of issue on the road, you have to go through all of these movements, like you said, to just do something that would have been simple on a touchscreen. So yes, that is the one thing that isn't that great for me about this particular Mazda.
Well, having said that, it delivers on a lot of other fronts. In terms of pricing, what are we looking at here?
I have this wonderful website that gives me all of this information. It's kept up to date. So the price as it is today is 1.1 million, 1,400 Rand. So just a drop over 1.1 million. And that means it plays solidly in the premium segment. Its closest rival, as far as I'm concerned, is the Audi Q5 40 TDI Quattro,
Okay.
which is similarly sized. It is similarly priced. It is also similarly powered, although not quite as powerful as the Mazda. It has a 2-liter turbo diesel engine. But yes, so it's not an insignificant price. But considering how much you get for that price, I think personally it's value for money if you're playing in that premium segment.
And it's playing in a very good WhatsApp group, if that's the company it's keeping. Certainly very impressive. And once again, as I say, I'm always amazed when you drive a Mazda. You never think of it initially, but then when you do drive it, you think, why have I never thought about driving this before? So a very good experience. Bernard Hellberg, the editor of Driven Magazine, always a pleasure connecting with you. And thanks for catching up with me on this occasion, talking about the Mazda CX-60 Takumi.
Alex, it was my great pleasure and honor. Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll chat again soon.
Follow the Sandton Times on social media at Sandton Times.
So One Discovery Place in Sandton hosted the official launch of the partnership between the Total Sports 2 Ocean Marathon powered by BYD. Yes, that is the total name. And Discovery as its official health, wellness, and banking sponsor. For our Spotlight interview, I sat down with Feroz Borat, he's the Chief Marketing Officer at Discovery, to reflect on Discovery Bank's involvement using the strength of the wider Discovery ecosystem.
So Discovery's always maintained its core purpose around making people healthier and enhancing and protecting their lives. And this sponsorship allows us to manifest that purpose in a really real manner. Running being one of the most pervasive sports in South Africa, it's ubiquitous. Everybody, like just about anybody who's interested in fitness would probably be a runner of some sort, whether casual or professional. And so this made sense for us, to be able to take one of the iconic races in South Africa and really present it to our members in a way that enhances their experience, and also just expanding the brand to a whole bunch of people who would be interested in running, in fitness, and Discovery and Vitality needs to be a part of that.
Of all the sporting properties you could have gotten involved with in this space, why did you gravitate towards the Two Oceans?
I think it's because it's that iconic. In the South African context, there's no question that the Two Oceans being the most beautiful race in the world, and people, even if you're not a runner, you know about it. It's kind of like, what Comrades is, right? I think the appeal of it, because even if you're not a serious runner, arguably if you want to run Comrades, you got to be a proper runner, otherwise you're going to hurt yourself. But the Two Oceans, anybody and everybody's can participate, and that's what's really appealing. It has stature, but it's also accessible, and that's what's really cool about this race.
You already highlighted that you already had a very strong Discovery membership base that was already competing in the Two Oceans. So I guess it was a natural fit to meet your members where they're at.
Absolutely. Team Vitality is the biggest running club in South Africa, and a huge number of our Team Vitality members actually participate in the race. What we want to do is to be able to obviously enhance that experience for them. So we're working on a number of initiatives to make sure that Vitality members, Team Vitality members, Discovery Bank members all have an enhanced Two Oceans experience for next year.
So it's a full turnkey solution in terms of the Discovery, but also in terms of the runners. So they have access to essentially all the Discovery products to make this race happen.
Absolutely. So we'll be starting out with the early access through Discovery Bank. If you're a Discovery Bank card holder, you get 72 hours pre-access to the ballot system, which is of huge value of a race that's so oversubscribed. We're going to leverage the entire ecosystem of Discovery and Vitality with our partners, our gym partners, our healthy food partners, our travel partners, to be able to bring the whole race experience to life. From the time you leave your city, for example, if you're in Johannesburg, you're flying, your accommodation, your car hire, all of that kind of stuff is going to be sort of enhanced to a degree for people who are members. And then obviously at the race itself, we're working on experiences there with our partners at Stillwater.
How widespread is the Discovery brand, and specifically related to the running part, across South Africa? I mean, the major metropolitan hubs you would assume gravitate towards a density, obviously population. But how is that brand looking outside of those major metropolitan areas?
So there certainly is a concentration within the major metros, but again, given the ubiquity of running, Team Vitality Running Clubs spreads beyond just those metros. We see them coming up in the peri-urban areas. We see them coming up in the outlying areas where small running clubs are sort of starting to manifest. And also Discovery and Vitality is a ubiquitous brand. So we reach communities out beyond the metros as well. And I think running is the perfect platform for that, because that's what's the most accessible to most people.
What happens now between the registration period, which is obviously going to be a peak, and the actual start of the race in 2027? There's a bit of a window period that many might consider a bit of a lull. How do you keep that messaging and that branding and that interaction with runners who want to compete? How do you keep that going?
So I think you said it, the trick here is to maintain the interaction and the engagement with people who are interested in the two oceans. And that's what Vitality is going to do. We use our science, we use our 30 years of data to be able to nudge and incentivize people towards those positive behaviors to get them ready for the race. And so we're going to be leveraging, again, our healthy food partners, our gym partners, the experts that we have on our panel, our clinicians, everything that we believe is going to add value to a runner as they prepare for the race next year.
Is there anything that you're personally excited about, this partnership that gets you excited?
The whole thing is just super exciting for me, but I think most of all is the fact that we are building this race to something really phenomenal. I mean, it's growing from 30,000 to over 50,000. They announced today. I really want to see this as one of those races that sit on the global stage as something that people are attracted to, that they want to come to South Africa for. And that's what I'm hoping that we can build with the Two Oceans team. I want to make it one of those iconic global races.
Your founder and group CEO has set the pace in terms of competing in marathons around the world. Will he be competing, and will you be joining him for the 2027 Two Oceans?
I'm almost sure he's going to compete. He's got to run in our colors. I'll make him, but then he's probably going to make me train with him, which is an arduous task, right? So yes, I will also be participating. Keeping up with him is going to be a challenge.
The voice of Feroz Borat, Chief Marketing Officer of Discovery, chatting about the Discovery Two Oceans Marathon Partnership in our Spotlight interview. And as he mentioned, exclusive to Discovery Bank members, as part of this agreement, Discovery Bank members will enjoy an exclusive preferential entry window from 10 a.m. on 28 July 2026, and that closes just before 10 a.m. on the 31st of July 2026 on a first-come, first-served basis. It's a preferential slot, if you will, to one of South Africa's most beautiful road races, and more details will be up on the Sandton Times website.
Rooted in Sandton, reaching across South Africa.
This is the Sandton Times Hour.
As we head into the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leipner, and a quick reminder that if you caught anything on the show this week and you wanted to find out a little bit more, discover some of the topics we've discussed, well, you can head onto the website sandtontimes.co.za and have a look at the show notes that we try and get up at a good time. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but we try to give you some more links, some more reading, some contact details, all the things you might have missed whilst listening. And also, whilst you're there, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and you can revisit some of the chats and interviews we've done in the past. You can check out the social media accounts if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe to Sandton Times on your preferred social media platform, and don't forget to use the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. If you're outside of South Africa, you can add a +27 84 726 3866, and that's for your voice notes, text messages, and so much more. Well, it's time to connect with Tat Wolfen, as we always do this time of the hour, for our regular entertainment commentating. And for some strange reason, this week I feel the commentating is going to be epic, maybe even an Odyssey, as we look at Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey with Matt Damon. So this is going to divide audiences, this movie. I mean, I'm just having a look at some of the headlines here. Vox.com saying, why does Odysseus have a Boston accent? Or why does the cast have an American accent? Or why are some of the swear words not very historically accurate? Then there's another one. The BBC said The Odyssey is a colossal piece of cinema, critics say in rave reviews. The Guardian talking about Nolan goes God tier with breathtaking epic of men, monsters, and moral metamorphoses. There was an interesting comment on Reddit I picked up this morning, which kept it really simple and just said, a little better than the Moana remake. Well, here to tell us his thoughts on The Odyssey by Christopher Nolan, Tat Wolfen.
Okay, Alex, are you prepared to wind me up and let me go?
I don't know if I am, but I feel like I just need to put my seatbelt on for this one, because I know I have a feeling I know what's coming.
I think you ought to. And I'm going to state that Christopher Nolan is the most overrated filmmaker of all time. He's all about flashy technique, but I find his films empty and soulless. I know enough about this movie to tell you that there are no horses wild enough to drag me to a screening of this movie.
All right. Okay. Well, hold on. Let's just quickly rewind the clocks here quickly. So Christopher Nolan, for those who have no reference point, he did Interstellar, The Dark Knight, Oppenheimer, Inception. I mean, a couple of pretty big box office movies.
Yeah. And okay, there's a group of moviegoers that I call the Nolanites.
Yeah.
They adore his movies. They are devoted. They're like these, like Village of the Damned, these children with this blank hypnotized stare in their eyes, and they will go to see a Christopher. I mean, I've asked a lot of these folk, like, what did you think of Interstellar? Oh, it was great. What was it about? I'm not too sure, but it was like intense,
it was long.
Man. Yeah, it was long.
Because that's the thing about the Odyssey, right? I mean, it's a very long movie. I mean, you have to really endure it. There's a lot going on. It's quite intense in parts, but this is kind of where the controversy comes in, right? Because it sort of follows very loosely the story of the Trojan War.
Very loosely. Well, the film is supposed to be based upon Homer's classic epic poem, but instead, Christopher Nolan based it on a recent revisionist feminist interpretation of Homer's poem.
Okay.
And one of the stars, Lupita Nyong'o, recently moaned in an interview that the original story was too male-centric, because forbid we should see a movie these days that's a story about male heroes in an unaltered form. Now, if you want to base it on this revisionist version of the Odyssey, then just say in the credits, loosely based upon the Odyssey, and call the movie Harry and Jenny Go Adventuring or something. Because why is it such a sin these days to make a movie around a strong male character? I can take you back in movie history and television history, and just off the top of my head, let's talk about TV shows. I Love Lucy, starring Lucille Ball, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Maud, starring the great Beatrice Arthur, That Girl. When it comes to movies, there's Yentl with Barbara Streisand, Mame, starring Beatrice Arthur, Annie Get Your Gun with the great Betty Hutton, The Unsinkable Molly Brown, starring Debbie Reynolds, Hello Dolly, again with Streisand. These were all movies and TV shows going right back to the 1940s, starring great, strong female characters. And we loved them. But now, you want to make a movie based upon an epic piece of poetry that happens to feature a great male hero, and now everyone's taking offense. But really?
Now, Tat, the story is also based on historic facts, right? I mean, we're talking about the Greek army, the Trojan army, the Spartan army. These are sort of historic stories that have unfolded. It's not like, somebody made this up.
No, it is. It's an epic poem, but there should be things that should be historically correct, like the kinds of armor and stuff that the soldiers wore back in the day, which is not what you see in the movie. There is nothing historically accurate in that movie. And also Nolan does this trendy thing these days of dialing down the colors of the movie. So everything's in these bleak blues and grays and greens, and that's what television and movies these days all have the color seeped out of them, bleached out of the things.
And there's also no Greek actors in this movie.
The casting is outrageous. And one of the really ironic things about this is that one of the stars of the movie is John Leguizamo, who for years has been whinging that, if you're going to make a movie that has a Latin character, then you should have a Latin actor playing him. So what do we have in this movie? A Latin actor playing a Greek character. Wow. Can we spell the word irony, Mr. Leguizamo? It's ridiculous. There's no one who has a vaguely Greek background that's in the cast of this movie. No one. It doesn't resemble anything like the original epic poem. And remember, the story is set in Greece. Greece is sun-drenched. You're supposed to have these vibrant, bright colors, high contrasts, these heroic, tanned characters. And instead of which you have these depressed, bleak guys. I've seen enough of the movie. I haven't seen the movie, as you know, but I've seen enough of the movie to think that it looks as though it's shot in Norway on a bad winter.
So I went to go see it, and I'll give you my take on it as well. I mean, a lot of what we've pointed out in terms of the look and feel, it's very dark and melodramatic. There's some interesting commentary about, and I'm trying to understand exactly how to phrase this, but there's some interesting undertones or themes that kind of speak to our current world situation. I mean, some people might enjoy the action, some of them might enjoy the special effects and some of the fantasy. But there's also parts of the movie that are just quite long that could have been a bit shorter.
Now, that sounds the polite way of saying that you were bored out of your skull, my friend.
I don't know if boring is the word, but it's certainly longer than it possibly should be.
Which to my mind equals boring, because there are so many current movies that come out that are 2 hours, 40 minutes or whatever. And I watch this thing and I sometimes think, well, you know what? This would have made an interesting 100-minute movie, but you were too self-indulgent and too in love with your material. You lingered on every shot of every single beach and every single elbow in that movie, and it just became too long and you lost my interest. You've got to maintain your audience's interest.
The movie features Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Charlize Theron makes an appearance, Travis Scott. I mean, as I say, I don't know if I found it relaxing, because it is very intense at the best of times, and like I say, quite long, and maybe a little bit like repetitive. But if you feel like you need to add this to your movie reference points in for whatever reason, this is possibly something that you would go out and watch. But as I say, it's not necessarily an easy viewing experience, and I'm actually not even quite sure what to do with this movie.
I would struggle to find a reason, and I'm going to get so much hate mail after this, I might as well immigrate.
Thanks, Tat.
Keep listening.
There's more to come on the Sandton Times Hour.
67 Blankets for Nelson Mandela Day campaign has been in full swing again this past week, and I had a chance to catch up with 67 Blankets founder Carolyn Steyn at a fabulous celebration to unveil a stunning knitted chandelier hanging in the centre court of Hyde Park Corner Shopping Centre in Greater Sandton. I also managed to chat to renowned fashion designer Ladumo Nkogolo, founder of Maxhosa Africa, who formed part of this year's celebrations and a related exhibition in the centre, and I asked him to give me some more context to Maxhosa, the brand.
Maxhosa is an African luxury brand that started 16 years ago from Eqeberha. We specialize in knitwear, and we are established as a luxury fashion brand with 10 stores around South Africa.
What defines the style of the brand, and what has made it such a success?
What defines the style of the brand is our distinctive DNA, which is the patterns that we withdrew from the Xhosa traditional motifs. And that DNA is something that we've spun around, have chopped and changed. But then our objective was to modernize African cultural aesthetics. And that is the concept that people know our brand for.
You said it's been going for 16 years. Was it a straight up success from day one, or has this been something that's been an evolution in terms of the brand, the design, but also the audience that now purchases the brand?
The growth of the brand Maxhosa has been quite an organic one, with a lot of effort put into marketing. We've been doing shows around the world for years, and the notable shows that we've been doing are at the Paris Fashion Week for the past 3 years now, and that benchmark has helped our brand to be positioned at the position where it's at the moment amongst your best global luxury brands. We feel like we've only grown 10% of where we're aiming for, so as much as it's been 16 years, it feels like it has only been 6 months.
Where's the majority of your support coming from? Is it South African, or is it a lot of internationals?
Majority of our support comes from South Africa. We like being proudly South African and having South African supporters. Most of South Africans are from Gauteng. Second best is, I'd say, the Eastern Cape. Of course, that's our home. KZN represents us very well. Our market is very dynamic, and it keeps becoming more dynamic as we grow. We are excited with the community that we've accumulated overseas, more specifically in New York. and we are spreading out now and accumulating a community in France, in Paris, since we've been doing shows for the past 3 years.
What do you think South African design and South African fashion is bringing to the international creative design community that they're not getting anywhere else?
I think what South African design is bringing to the fashion community is culture. Culture is something that has been frowned upon for years, but now young South Africans are coming up with narratives that are more crystallized, modern, that are celebrating culture in a way that is unpredictable and creative because of the experiences with traveling around the world and the research that we've been doing as designers. We are disrupting the fashion industry.
What's in the pipeline for the brand? Having started off as predominantly a clothing brand, you're going into furniture. What else can people expect from Maxhosa?
What people can expect from Maxhosa is, of course, a broader scope of our homeware. Homeware is quite a dynamic portfolio. Lifestyle in general is something else. So we've ventured into homeware for the past 10 years, but now we are going deep into lifestyle that is experiences. So for the past 4 years, we've been staging a festival called MXS Culture Festival, and that festival has brought even international travelers who look forward to come and experience the brand, not just in terms of material experience, but in terms of tactile experiences that we've been hosting in different parts. Like for instance, last weekend we did Durban July. We had a marquee that we partnered with an existing brand called Saso's Marquee, and we won the best marquee for the second time in a row. So those are the focuses that we're looking at right now as a brand, knowing very well that customers want, desire more than just products.
What's the tie-in with the 67 Blankets project?
The 67 Blankets project by Caroline Stein has been something that we've been watching from a distance for years. We got a call a couple of months ago. They asked us to be part of their revolution, and they asked us to be part of their exhibition, which is here at the Hyde Park Mall. We said, say less, because we own a foundation as well that is called Lindelwa Foundation. We want to participate in doing good cause in the future with them, and tonight we are launching an exhibition which will live as a pop-up until the end of July to showcase what South African hands are capable of. So the tie-in with them is that we are here to showcase what South African craftsmanship is capable of, and getting the community to pledge and support the initiatives that we are doing. That
was Laduma Ngogolo, founder of Maxhosa Africa, and I'm sure that is not the last we are going to hear from this growing South African designer brand. It's time to wrap up the Sandton Times Hour this week. Feel free to send through your questions, comments, and feedback. You can use the email address editor@sandtontimes.co.za. Connect on social media at Sandton Times, or hop onto the website sandtontimes.co.za. You can use the WhatsApp line exclusive to the Sandton Times Hour, 084 Sandton, that's 084 726 3866. for your voice notes, text messages, and more. As always, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and join the growing digital community right there. And thank you to all my guests who made time to be on the show this week, and of course the team behind the scenes making it all possible. A very special thank you to you for listening, and God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
Winner of the 2025 Telkom Radio Awards, Best Talk Show.
This is the Sandton Times Hour.